funny. I wrote down stubborn and Scorpio as a strength. But I wrote it as a weakness in Taurus. Sorry. Hi guys, it's Alyssa and welcome back to my channel, The Divine Venus, for another video on astrology. Before I begin, I just want to say thank you so much for everybody who's supported Roseline, who's followed me on Instagram and connected to me about Roseline, who's typed themselves and knows what dynasty, what kingdom, what nature they are. I just wanted to say thank you so much. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I created a system back in 2018. It's been on my Patreon for a while, but I just went public with it. It is a typing system. I'm going to be making a lot of videos on it. So anyone who is excited about it, there will be more videos on it, but I'm also going to be giving you astrology videos as well. So that's the future direction of my channel. I am going to be giving you astrology videos, and for anyone who wants a Roseline video, you can have those too. So it's not like I'm neglecting my astrology people who aren't interested, but for those who are interested in what I've created, I am going to take a shift down that direction because it's where my passion currently lies, or has lied since 2018. Let's get into your progressed chart. So what we're going to be doing is going into your progressed moon. There are many different ways to read progressed charts. There's a lot of things, and I will kind of talk about it a little bit at first, just kind of an introduction. So if you're interested in the aspects and what's going on with some other information, I'll get into that a little bit. It's going to be more off the cuff. I'm going to be talking about it a little bit, but not super in depth. Really want to use this video to talk about the progressed moon because it is the most important factor in your life and in your chart as you are learning about progressions. The rest of your progressed chart, I think, will unfold for you after you get a handle on your personal progressed moon. Pull up astro.com. This is my favorite place to go on my channel because it has everything that you need. You don't need software. So we're going to go to free horoscopes. We're going to go all the way down the list to extended chart selection. You're going to get that. You can get this on the web, on your phone as well, but the computer is just easier to see. And we're going to get Alyssa here because that's me. If you don't have an account, you don't need one. You can just put in a guest user. But I have an account because I can just add people. It's a lot easier. It's free. Okay, so you're gonna scroll down and you're gonna go to Natal Chart Wheel right here. There's an airplane. And you're gonna go Natal Chart Wheel. You're gonna go all the way down to get to your progressed chart. And I'm going to click here to show the chart. You do need your exact time of birth to make these progressions correctly, or like they're not going to be correct, and that's really important to know. My progressed chart is up right here. This looks different than my regular chart, so I'm going to show you my natal chart just so you can see the difference. Like if you can't tell the difference between these two charts, you need to train your eyes a little bit better. That's not being mean, that's just being accurate. Train your eyes. So here is my natal chart. We got a Pisces rising. We got moon, 22 degrees Taurus, the north node at 9 degrees. We got my sun and Mercury in Libra, Saturn in the 8th house, Neptune conjunct my midheaven in Sagittarius, right? So my progressed chart looks a little different. Look at this 0 degree Aquarius midheaven, a Taurus rising at 22 degrees. My moon is in the 5th house in Virgo. My sun has progressed to Scorpio. So what does this mean? Am I now a Scorpio? No. I am still a Libra. I still have a Pisces rising. This is still my energy to me. This is gonna be me. So we don't have to like bend or contort our understanding of our natal chart just to add a progressed chart into the mix. Let's look at our progressed chart as in an overlay or in addition to, okay? So in addition to my natal chart, I have a progressed chart. This progressed chart shows me my growth. It shows me where I'm at in life. It shows me which things are hitting me. Big moments in my life that you might want to see right now. I have a progressed 22 degree Taurus rising. This is important to me right now because look at my moon in Taurus. My natal moon in Taurus is 22 degrees and my progressed rising is conjunct my moon right now. That's a really big deal for me because it means that my identity is being moved towards my moon. And while this is happening, I released an entire system based on moon signs, the moon sign degree. So it's a perfect time of my life to release something that's very personal to me that I feel like I am the mother of. I didn't necessarily look at these progress charts and be like, this is when I'm going to do it. It just happened. So when you're looking at progress charts, it's not always about planning things. Sometimes things are already planned for you. And that's what I've realized about progressions is that things are planned for you in advance. Some things are just going to happen. Some things are inevitable. What do you want to look at when you're looking at your progress chart? You want to look at your moon sign. You're just getting into progress charts. You've never ever seen a progress chart in your life. Then look at this moon. This is your focus. Look at the degree of the moon. Look at the sign of the moon. Look at the house of the moon. Look at the aspects of the moon. You can very easily get caught up in a lot of this energy, which is fine. Like, I'm definitely a lot more subdued now that I have a Taurus rising. For the majority of my, early life, I had a progressed Aries rising, being a late Pisces rising myself. And I was kind of wild, okay? And as soon as my rising progressed into Taurus, I was much more subdued. And it takes about 20-ish years for your rising to change signs. So it's a long time coming. The moon, however, takes 2 years to move through each sign, 2 years to 2.5 years to move through each sign and house, depending on how big the house is, if you're using a Placidus chart, which I do. Not only is this moon gonna move more quickly than every other planet here, this sun is gonna move like a degree a year, the Venus as well. They're gonna move around and that's fine because when it conjuncts something, it's gonna be an important moment, but the moon is gonna just be clicking as your life is clicking, as your life, as you're growing, as you're moving, that moon is moving too. Every time that moon shifts a degree over, you start to realize there's might be a new energy, okay? So my moon right now is 6 degrees. That's ruled by Venus, okay? So that number does matter. And if you want to get into like degree theory and everything, there's a lot of different astrologers who have different understanding of degrees. I've been asked this a lot, like, what do I think about degrees? When I get into degrees, I go into numbers, okay? So each number is ruled by a planet. And I simplify the degrees down to the numbers unless they are a master number. So I'm going to put this right here for you to see the planets that rule the numbers. But I know that 6 is ruled by Venus. And so I definitely feel like in this sense, it's a more relaxed moment for me after just getting out of the 5 degrees. I just left a 5 degrees Virgo moon, which was much more hectic because 5 is ruled by Mercury and it denotes change. This moon, since it's moving fast, is going to be scoring aspects with every planet around it. So right now, it is in a trine with Neptune. It's about to leave that trine with Neptune, okay? It's been in one, it's about to leave it. So that's gonna be a little phase of my life that's over. It's going to be an exact in conjunct with Jupiter pretty soon. Well, like over this next year. So that's gonna be something that will interest me when it comes into more of a full understanding. But I am going to have more energy around my career. Probably my career is probably going to be putting more energy within me as well, because the in conjunct itself is like a rebellious aspect. There's energy going from the Jupiter in the 10th, the progressed Jupiter in the 10th, to my moon, saying something with my career is happening, some form of expansion, some form of loss as well, okay? This is all well and good, all these aspects, but if this is going over your head and you can't read aspects, then I'm not going to be explaining them to you. This is not a video about explaining aspects. I just kind of wanted to show you that your moon will be switching aspects. If I look at a year, here, we're gonna just really quick, and then I'm gonna go into what is the most simple. So if I go to a year ago, May 9th, 2020, look at that moon, 22 degrees Leo. Exactly a year ago, my moon was actually square my natal moon. It was also square my rising, because my rising was Taurus at 21 degrees. So it was an exact square to my rising and my moon. It also was square my Saturn. It had no aspect with Jupiter here, okay? It was in Leo in the 4th house, very different energy I was experiencing last year. This is something too, because around this time last year, I moved my house into something that was much more stable. I got an office out of it. A lot of things were really great, but they were also very challenging, and I had to leave behind a lot. And this energy shows that this is what was happening. The moon also was squared the sun for a long time, about 2019 to 2020. So this is it leaving a square with the sun. So you can see certain things in my life were happening. Do you get what I'm saying when I'm explaining this? I really don't want to be confusing to you, but I don't know how better to tell you the energy that the progress chart does, because it's not changing who I am. It's not changing how I react. It's telling me what is happening to me. Okay. Now, something else. So while this is 2020, if you look at this, last year I had a 29-degree Capricorn midheaven as well. So if you see this, May 9th, 2021, I have a 0-degree Aquarius midheaven. My midheaven changed at around the same time that the moon started to become into an aspect with that Jupiter in Aquarius. My midheaven also changed into Aquarius. If I went and looked at the exact date that happened, I could probably see a shift in the way that I was using my public platforms, which I can. I'm not going to show you that exact date right now because to me it doesn't matter. But here is what does matter. The moon. The moon is in Virgo in the 5th house. If you don't know aspects, this is all you need to know. My moon, my energy, my physical energy, my well-being, who I am right now is Virgo, is the sign that your moon is in, okay? It's Virgo playing itself out in the 5th house. So my detail oriented is a lot of focus on my craft and my creativity and my children, right? You can definitely find what placement you're in and where your energy of your progressed moon is playing out in, and that will help you understand who you are for the next couple years. I hope that you're able to look in your past too and see where that progressed moon was and what you were doing at that time and see how it actually played out for you as opposed to, me, and see how it plays out with your friends so that you can get a better understanding of how to predict your own future and when those things are going to happen. Let's get into the moon sign. If your progressed moon is in Aries, you are going to be acting more courageous, more wild, more instinctual, probably trying to bulldoze down walls, okay? Now, you might seem more confident during this time, more enthusiastic, optimistic, honest with yourself and with other people. Sometimes it might even feel like to a fault. You're going to be impassioned. Weaknesses wise, you probably are going to feel pretty impatient, maybe even moody or short-tempered, angry. This can even get into a lot of rage depending on where your progressed Mars is as well. Impulsive and, aggressive. So when you have the Aries moon for the 2.5 years that it is in Aries, you will have a lot of this extra energy built up. This is a really good time to exercise. And you want to be able to look at the house to see where that energy is playing out. And like I said, look to your progressed Mars to see if your Mars is also playing out in any sort of aggressive sign. It might be more subdued if it's, say, in a more passive sign like Libra. Now, if your moon is progressed into Taurus, you are feeling more reliable, more patient, more practical, probably more organized in a sense of one thing at a time, getting it done, slow and steady wins the race. You'll be more devoted, responsible, and stable, or you'll be learning that stability. Weaknesses wise, you're going to be really stubborn. You're going to be more possessive of others, of your things, of everything, your children, whatever. You're going to feel very possessive during this time because Taurus does rule money and all those physical objects, and so you're going to be wanting to hoard them, and you'll probably be very uncompromising, which I think goes along the lines of stubborn. Now, those weaknesses can also be strengths as well. You might need to be stubborn. You might have to stand up for yourself. All those things are really good. And so there's something that you should be thinking about while you're going through the Taurus moon. You would also want to look at where Venus is, because if Venus has progressed to Aries, you might have a more fiery temper. You might lose a little bit of that patience, okay? You also want to look at what house this energy is playing out into. That will be your sole focus. So find that in later. If you are a progressed moon in Gemini, your strengths are that you are gentle, affectionate, very curious, adaptable, lots of change going on. Definitely have the ability to learn quickly, have new ideas, maybe even spark epiphanies. And I would definitely use this time to think outside the box a little bit. Like if you feel like you've been running into walls, being in that Aries and Taurus progressed moon before, you would have spent 4 or 5 years kind of like maybe hitting roadblocks. And in this time, you might be able to use your mind to sort of maneuver around those roadblocks. The weaknesses of this place can make you very nervous, have a lot of anxiety, feel very inconsistent or be inconsistent, be unable to get things done or return calls. It can make you very indecisive as well. You have the black and white brain, one thing at a time, okay? Now, something that can also happen with this, because it's ruled by Mercury, when you have a progressed Gemini moon, Mercury retrogrades are going to really affect you, because you are relying on communication. So when something is not communicating, you can really feel like out of the loop or missing out, and it could actually be kind of devastating during that time. So just pay attention, and when the Mercury retrogrades come around, make sure you're relying on your heart to speak to your mind, that you're practicing harmony, and that's okay. You don't have to act right now, just holding yourself off. This also will be affected by where your progressed Mercury is in your chart. What's happening with Mercury right now? So you always want to be looking at Mercury when you're in that progressed Gemini. And you also want to be looking at what house the moon is playing out in. So you can look at that in this video as well. Now, if your progressed moon is in Cancer, you're going to be feeling very tenacious, very imaginative, emotional, or sensitive. And when I get into emotional versus sensitivity, emotional to me is not bad. Sensitive is when it gets bad. And this is what we're going to be looking at here with this Cancer. Emotional is a beautiful strength. Emotional is diving straight into the cold water and letting it rush around you and feeling alive and invigorated. And Cancers are great at that. But Cancers who do not want to get into their water, get into their emotions, who kind of tiptoe in, put their toe in, and then freak out, that's sensitivity. That's when you feel your entire nervous system is just reliant on your toe dipping itself into those emotions. So with this time, if your moon is currently in Cancer for your progressed chart, I would focus a lot on letting yourself be emotional, letting yourself feel. That's very important, okay? You're gonna feel very loyal, sympathetic, empathetic, and probably really persuasive. Cancer is a persuasive water sign and wants people on her side. Weaknesses besides the sensitivity is the moodiness or the pessimism, which can happen, the depression even, pushing down those emotions. You're depressing yourself. Suspicious or manipulative, not just charming and persuasive, but when you get in a manipulative state. And insecure, feeling like you're left out or like that you don't have love that you feel like you need. Another thing, because it's ruled by the moon, a lot of energy is going into yourself at this point, because each moon in a sign is going to be ruled by something, but the moon in Cancer is ruled by itself. So that moon in Cancer, it's going to be a very strong time for you getting to the bottom of you. Good 2.5 years of that. Have fun. You also want to see what house this is playing out into, where you're putting that energy, okay? That emotional energy, where is it focused on? What place in your life? Okay, now if your moon is in Leo, you're going to feel very creative, passionate. Your heart is going to be full. You're probably going to feel very romantic as well. Very generous, warm-hearted, cheerful, funny, entertaining, and you might want to be the center of attention. And if you think about this too, having that moon in Leo, like a couple years out of that whole cycle, is like a really good time for you to just be on top of the world, if you can do that. The weaknesses though, you can be arrogant, stubborn, self-centered, lazy, inflexible. I like to think that Leo is the sign that when backwards is the one that displays heavily those 7 deadly sins of sloth, pride, envy, wrath. It's the one that is just like, but I'm not getting my way, and so I'm going to overindulge in something. When I had my moon in Leo just recently, I gained a lot of weight. Yeah. I had a lot of emotions, like in my heart was very creative. I was really after things, but I definitely wasn't making any friends. And I definitely felt like heartbroken a lot. I felt like I needed to eat my feelings. So that can happen as well. You also want to see what house it's playing out in, because obviously during that time, my Leo moon was playing out in the 4th house. So the 4th house is in my feelings. Damn, it makes you think, like, hindsight's 20/20, right? But if you know this, you can know what's gonna hit you too, like where that energy is gonna be playing out. You wanna look at what your sun is doing too. Like, where is your progressed sun? Because my progressed sun was Scorpio, so it's definitely very intense while my moon was playing out in Leo, because the sun rules Leo. So see what sign your sun is in to see where that energy, is going, what's helping that energy play out. Virgo. If your moon is in Virgo, you're gonna be feeling very analytical, a lot of detail oriented, maybe even anal retentive, very focused on certain things, kind, hardworking, practical. I think there's not gonna be, even coming out of that Leo moon, which can make you feel more aggressive or arrogant in some ways. Once you get into that Virgo moon, you can feel more humbled and kind of embarrassed about the things that you've done. Back then, you feel much more like, I just want people to be happy and I want things to be good, and I'm just gonna focus on getting paid, So that can be a strong strength within that. But your weaknesses, you can be kind of shy and isolated. You can be overly self-critical, overly critical of others. You can also feel a lot of worry and anxiety and feel like you don't get a chance to just play and have fun, that there's always something on your back, always something that you have to do. So you want to look at where Mercury is during this progression. You do want to pay attention to it if Mercury is going retrograde, because if Mercury is going retrograde, it might change what you're doing. You might feel really lost. You can also maybe even feel like you're in a Mercury retrograde for 2 years. This is kind of how I've been feeling as someone who has a progressed Virgo moon right now. I've felt like I've been in a state of Mercury retrograde for a very long time. And it's just like, it's because you just feel like you can't get it done. Like there's always more, there's something happening. It's just so far out of reach for that to be completed, which is just because there is a lot of work on you when you have that Virgo moon. You also want to see where your progressed Mercury is, what sign your progressed Mercury is playing out with, and what house this moon is in, because that's where the energy is focused. Now, if you have a progressed Libra moon, you're going to be feeling very balanced or cooperative, maybe even unbalanced, but you're working towards that balance. Diplomatic, gracious, fair-minded, very social. Libra is a social sign. On its weaknesses, you might be feeling very indecisive or avoidant of confrontation, feeling pretty gossipy even, have a lot of self-pity or carry a lot of grudges. You might be really thinking about your enemies. Libra is not just relationships, it's also like open enemies and, people talking about you behind your back, or you talking about others. There could be a war raging that you're trying to stay out of. Another thing that Libra is good at, aesthetic. You feel very beautiful around aesthetic things. You might even be going through a body or mind or face transformation, feeling much more, pretty inside of yourself. Oh, you want to also look at where Venus is in your chart, because if Venus is playing out in Taurus, that's like a very Venus-y couple of years. But if Venus has progressed to, say, Aquarius, maybe your moon in Libra is much more diplomatic than about beauty, right? Maybe it's much more about your knowledge and figuring out a way to showcase that in a beautiful way or bring justice to humanity. So you got to look at where Venus is and what sign it's playing out in. Also, where is the house that you're going to be focused on. Scorpio progressed moon. If your moon is in Scorpio, you are feeling very resourceful, brave, passionate, and a loyal and a true friend. It's funny, I wrote down stubborn in Scorpio as a strength, but I wrote it as a weakness in Taurus. Sorry. But it kind of is when it comes to intimacy in the Scorpio moon. You do need to be able to protect your boundaries a lot more when you are in the sign of like two souls converging as one. So it's important to put up and to draw lines in the sand when it comes to who you are and what you're willing to merge with. So some of the weaknesses though are being jealous, secretive, violent, and distrusting to a fault. There might be people who are just really on your side, but you can't trust them. And it might feel hard during that time to like figure out who's your friend and who's not. And this can come out of that Libra moon energy. Like you're very social during that Libra moon energy, but obviously people, we don't always mesh with others, and maybe they become enemies during that time. So that could be something that happens. You want to see where Pluto or Mars are in your progressed chart. You can look at both of them to see how the energy of Scorpio is playing out progressively in your chart. Now, Pluto is not really going to move, so you can check Mars because it is the old ruler. But mostly if you're, you know, a millennial, you got Pluto in Scorpio. If you're Gen Z, you got Pluto in Sagittarius. If you're Gen X, you have Pluto in Libra. So that could be affecting who or what you're getting mad at during that time. You also want to look at what house that Scorpio energy is playing out with. It might be playing out in your first house, and then maybe you're becoming distrustful of yourself, or you're protecting self from everybody, you know? If you have a progressed moon in Sagittarius, you're going to be feeling very generous, idealistic, probably want to travel because that's the usual Sag thing, and great sense of humor, funny, entertaining, storyteller. Sagittarius are great storytellers, so you might be in that energy. You might just want to get away from it all, you know, run away, go on an adventure. So it could be a very adventurous time for you. But also it's about higher learning and higher consciousness. So it could be about you studying and or seeing the light in some way. The weaknesses are you might promise more than you can deliver at this time. You might feel very highly optimistic, but you're not really optimistic. Like it really can't happen. There might be some things that just can't happen in life, and you as a Sagittarius moon might be like, no, there's got to be a way, and there just might not be in this physical world. You can be very impatient as fire moons get, and you might just say anything no matter how undiplomatic or gross or just it could harm your reputation during that time. Pay attention to what you're saying and what you're doing, because you're going to be moving into the Capricorn moon, which is when you're really worried about your reputation. So during this time, you are learning about becoming more you, and you might have to get away from it all to find you. Where is that playing out? That truth that you're trying to find will be playing out in a house. And so you're gonna look at that house to see what area of life you want that to play out in. And you also wanna look at Jupiter. Where is your progressed Jupiter? What's it doing? Because that's gonna show you another sign that your energy is being very expansive and optimistic. Now, if you have a Capricorn progressed moon, you're gonna be feeling very responsible. You're worried about your reputation, and not necessarily in a bad way. You're trying to cultivate a brand. You're gonna be very disciplined, have a lot of self-control, and become very good at leading others or, you know, delegating jobs during this time. This is that time where you feel like you're climbing up the ladder and you're coming out on top. Some of the weaknesses that you might be experiencing within yourself is that you might feeling like you're a know-it-all and people want you to shut up. You're unforgiving of others and what they're doing. You're condescending. You expect the worst out of others, and you expect the best out of yourself. And this can make people not really want to be around you as much, or they might feel like, oh, you know, you're just in it for yourself. You're not really worried about connecting to people on an emotional level. You're more just, I'll, you know, kill everybody to get ahead. So that energy could be on you, and you might feel people kind of distancing themselves from you. But if you're working really hard and you are disciplined and you are focused on your career, it is a good time to do that. So if you're in that Capricorn progressed moon, focus in on who you want to be in this world, where you want to progress the world, what your purpose is. All of that is going to help you. You want to see where Saturn is progressed in your chart. Also, if you're going through like your Saturn return during that time, it can be extra focus on Saturn. So that would be something to pay attention to. And you want to see what house this Capricorn is in during this time, because wherever that is, that's where your hard work is kind of focused in on. You're still going to be focusing on your career, even if it's in like the 3rd house, but maybe your career is focusing on communication in that area, you know, or in the 8th house, it could be focusing on power and control in the area of your career. So you want to look at how that energy is playing out. If you have an Aquarius progressed moon, you are progressed. You're feeling very progressive, like you are innovating and changing the game. You're very original, independent. This is coming out of that Capricorn moon energy. So you've probably already given yourself a place to stand. And so now you're like, okay, how do I become a mover and shaker? You know, you will feel like a humanitarian, like everybody is special and you need to help everybody. This can kind of be exhausting too sometimes. Your weaknesses are you might run from emotional expression. You could be very uncompromising and temperamental, and even cold and distant from everybody else. You might feel like you're doing the best for everybody, but in fact you're alienating the people that you should be loving the most. This can happen when you're hyper focused on changing the world as the Aquarius energy wants to do, and you don't realize that you're leaving behind your own creativity, you're leaving behind the people that you love, you're leaving behind your heart. So that's something to be aware of during that time. Always check back in with your heart. Now you want to look at where Uranus is in your chart or in your progressed chart. But since Uranus does move more slowly, you can also look at Saturn. Look at both Saturn and Uranus to see what they're doing in your progressed chart, to see how they're playing out in even the transits as well. And you want to look at where that energy is playing out in what house. What house is all this changing the world going into? Where do you want to change the world? What's happening there? It's very unique to you. Now, if you have a Pisces progressed moon, you're feeling very artistic, creative, compassionate, definitely connected, maybe more psychic, connected to divine energy, intuitive, more wise. You're more wise. I'm not in my Pisces moon. You might feel very musical. A lot of Pisces moon energy is very musical and adaptive and feels things out in that energy. But you might be feeling more fearful, overly trusting. To a fault, you start connecting to people to help you so that you can lean on them because you're afraid. You can feel sad or want to escape reality during this time. You can feel like a victim or a martyr because all of this Pisces energy, it's just too much to handle, and it might be really heavy because you don't really feel like I want to be working right now. I want to be going through my daily life because that's Virgo. It's on the other end. You're feeling very aggressively outside of time and space. So it's important to do things that keep you grounded, you know, eat good food during this time, not like chemicals and all of that. You want to eat grounding foods, fresh food, feed your soul, right? And possibly like work out too if you're not. Excuse me. You want to see what Neptune's doing, or because Neptune does move more slowly and is going to progress very slowly, you can see what Jupiter is doing as well, because those are going to be adding energy to your progressed chart. The last thing you want to do is focus in on where that Pisces energy is playing out. Is it for real playing out in your 6th house, like your daily life? Or is it in the 10th house of your career and you're really focusing on, you know, the big picture? You can be very big picture. So where are you big picture? Like, where is that energy going? That is all the progressed moons. Now I'm just going to tell you a little bit about each house and how it's playing out. So your progressed moon is playing out into the house of self. The area of life that you'll really be focusing on is your own appearance and your outward personality, your identity. It's going to be a new start. So no matter what sign it is, you're feeling a new start in that house of self. Now, if you're going through a 2nd house progressed moon, you're going to be really focused on money, possessions, even beauty, value in yourself, value in your others, and your own skills. Now, the 3rd house is a mental house. It's lower mentality. It's what's right in front of you. It can be like short trips. You can be running a lot of errands during that time, maybe spending a lot of time with your siblings or having a lot of communication with a lot of other people. If it's in the 4th house, it's going to be about home, parents, your roots, your ancestry, what's going on there, your inner security, what you nurture, what you value as far as your family line. If it's in the 5th house, it's about romance, creativity, what your heart wants, children, having fun. Now, if it's in your 6th house, it's going to be about daily work, your habits, your daily life, coworkers, service, health, your physical health, self-improvement. If it's in the 7th house, it's of relationships, okay? Partnerships. So not just marriages, but also like forming partnerships with other people. It can also be about open enemies, people who are against you. And your energy could be going into the other, basically. If it's in the 8th house, it's about sex and transformation, death, letting go, rebirth. It can even be about other people's money, so finance. It could be a time of like Bitcoin, and it's about sharing and intimacy. If it's in the 6th house, this is about your exploration of self, your higher consciousness, education, philosophy, universities fall in there, religion, traveling, like law. If it's in the 10th house, it's about your branding, your reputation, your self-actualization, your career, a lot of feeling like very purposeful during this time, and taking power over your life and who other people see you as. If it's in the 11th house, this is about who you aspire to be, your network of friends, but also your network of people in higher positions of authority, because it's about your aspirations and your dreams. And if it's falling in your 12th house, it's about solitude, institutions. This is what rules prison, also doctors, transcendence, also self-sabotage. It can be your place of undoing, but it can also be your place of divine energy. So if you can be focused on a very spiritual path during that time, it won't be your undoing. So thank you guys so much. I hope you guys have a really nice day, and I will talk to you later. Bye.